History was made on today's date. Stay tuned for an American Minute with Bill Federer.
On January 17, 1781, Washington's Southern Army defeated the British troops at Cowpens. In hot pursuit, Lord Cornwallis reached the Catawba River only 2 hours after the American troops had crossed, but a storm made the river impassable. He nearly overtook the Americans again at the Yadkin River just as they were getting out on the other side, but a torrential rain flooded the river. This happened a third time at the Dan River. British Commander Henry Clinton wrote, "Here the Royal Army was again stopped by a sudden rise of the waters, which had only just fallen almost miraculously to let the enemy over."
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD.
VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at VCYAmerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And friends, thank you for joining us on Crosstalk today here on VCY America. Ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, it is an outrage. An outrage that over 8 months ago, beginning in May of 2022, pro-life organizations, pregnancy care centers, and churches were targeted with firebombs, arson, extreme vandalism, death threats, and more when the Dobbs decision was first leaked from the U.S. Supreme Court. And folks, even after the Dobbs decision was unveiled, those have continued on. Many of these were signed by Jane's Revenge. Well, over 8 months have passed since these began, and not one individual has been brought to justice. Our guest today is a victim of this violent extremism at his own center that was attacked last June the 7th, even with video footage, and still no help from either the local police or the FBI who came to investigate. It is such that the center is now launching their own private investigation to find the arsonist who firebombed this facility. Joining us today, we welcome back Pastor Jim Harden, the president and CEO of Compass Care Pregnancy Services in New York. Jim pioneered the first measurable and repeatable medical model in the pregnancy center movement, helping hundreds of centers nationwide become more effective at reaching more women and saving more babies from abortion. He has written extensively on medical ethics, executive leadership, and pro-life strategy. And Pastor Jim Harden, nice to have you back with us here on Crosstalk.
It's an honor to be with you, as always. Thanks for having me.
Jim, you were on the air with us this past summer after your facility was firebombed. And for those who missed that episode, just give us, if you would, a brief overview of what transpired.
Sure. Well, as you just described, there was an illegal leak, unprecedented illegal leak of a full Supreme Court draft opinion overturning Roe versus Wade on May 2nd, which sparked a crime wave, pro-abortion crime wave, targeting pro-life people and organizations all across the country. On May 8th, I believe it was, the first firebombing occurred in Madison, Wisconsin, of a pro-life organization there, and Jane's Revenge, the pro-abortion terrorist group, took responsibility in a communique, giving a 30-day ultimatum at that point for pregnancy centers to shut down, or more of the same would happen. 30 days passed, and on 30 days to the day, our facility, our medical office in Buffalo, was brutally attacked with multiple Molotov cocktails, multiple perpetrators. We caught it all on video. Catastrophic damage, $500,000. 2 firefighters were injured putting out the blaze. And we had to relocate services. By the way, all of our medical services and comprehensive community support to women facing unplanned pregnancy are free, and they were relocated by the generosity of the church in Buffalo the very next day. So we continue to serve patients despite the fact that Jane's Revenge had shut down or else. They took responsibility, by the way, for that firebombing. They even have our picture on their anarchist website saying, hey, if you don't shut down now, next time it's not going to be so easily cleaned up as fire and graffiti, which is a murder threat. So nobody's been arrested. They haven't made any headway. We've been pushing hard on the FBI, saying they're intentionally slow walking this. They've been politicized. The Biden administration is turning the other way, turning a blind eye to this, giving Jane's Revenge a pass. And now the House Judiciary Committee is investigating the FBI for their failure to investigate crimes against pro-life people and organizations. And we've had to, as you just described, had to hire our own private investigators. And now we're even in a lawsuit with the Amherst Police Department, a first-ring suburb of Buffalo, to get our video surveillance back because they refuse to give it back to us. This is 7 months now, and our window to file a civil suit against the perpetrators is closing. They are basically running out the clock on this so that we can't, even if we could find somebody, we couldn't prosecute them.
This, again, folks, it just adds to my outrage over this. I mean, you had both local law enforcement, so Amherst Police Department, and federal law enforcement get engaged with, a so-called investigation?
That's correct. Local law enforcement was supposed to take the lead. Federal law enforcement, specifically with the FBI and ATF, were supposed to add resources. The federal FBI, from my conversations with local law enforcement, drug their feet and did not even look at the video surveillance for 5 whole weeks after the attack.
5 weeks, but it was 5 months before the FBI even released footage of your video surveillance.
And that was only under extreme pressure from the media and from senators and congressmen demanding to know why they had failed to act. And then they actually feigned interest and offered a $25,000 reward, which they have no intention of paying. If they were really interested in quelling this violence, they'd be putting out a reward for information leading to the arrest of all these attacks, 78 attacks on just pro-life pregnancy centers. Where's the manhunt? Why aren't they calling this what it is, domestic terrorism? It is an outrage, Jim.
You know, what's amazing to me in all of this, too, is let's just go back to January 6th, just a couple of years ago, and we've got all of this, face surveillance, video that we're doing face recognition, and so we've got all these people that are arrested, and you've got those who have been serving in J6 jail, basically, and it's been very horrible conditions there. No problem in capturing people from all over the country, but when you've got video footage of what's taken place here, and it's not just at Compass Care Pregnancy Services. We're talking, you mentioned Wisconsin Family Action in Madison, Wisconsin. You're talking about pregnancy care services all across this nation. I don't know what the number is amounted to at this time, but it's such that not a single perpetrator has been brought to justice.
Yes, and what that means is, it means that federal law enforcement has made a decision not to make arrests. And if you look at the way in which all the attacks have been handled, they have been coordinated. And by coordinated, I mean there are multiple layers of attacks on peaceful pro-life people since May and the leak of the Dobbs case. There's been a coordinated effort to censor pro-life pregnancy centers on search engines so that women can't find us, like on Google and Yelp. There's been a coordinated effort on the part of pro-abortion political bad actors like Elizabeth Warren, claiming that pregnancy centers are terrorizing women and that we all, across the country, we all need to be shut down. You've got Senator Hirano out of Hawaii, calling for a literal call to arms to pro-abortion people against pro-life people. You've got Hillary Clinton just several weeks ago likening pro-life people to Middle Eastern terrorists and the Al-Qaeda. I mean, we're the peaceful ones. We're the ones that believe that all people are made in the image of God and therefore equally valuable, deserving of blessing and protection. All the violence is coming from the left.
Yes. And
yet they're painting pro-life people as if they were violent gang leaders or terrorists. This is called political transference. This is where, it's like, psychological transference is this idea where, somebody has a problem, but they don't see it in themselves. They see it in everybody else. Well, that's exactly what's going on right now, except they're doing this on purpose. They're painting, intentionally mischaracterizing pro-life people as violent. Even the FBI is doing it. That's one of the reasons I know the FBI has been politicized, because they're saying that 70% of all their investigations of violence in the abortion arena are against pro-life people. Well, that means 30% are being perpetrated by pro-life people? No, that's not true. They have engaged 28 trumped up charges on FACE Act violations, FACE Act indictments of peaceful pro-life people just to make it look like they're somehow violent.
Yeah, I
These are
know.
people
We're talking
out in
about
the
these.
open.
We're talking about these raids on people's homes, and
Yeah.
I mean, teams of law enforcement surrounding a home, having out a peaceful pro-lifer and handcuffed in front of his children.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about. In Pennsylvania and Tennessee, and they're putting these numbers together. They're conflating these FACE Act indictments by the FBI against these pro-life people as if they're violent, and conflating them with the numbers of the violence that's actually occurring.
Mm-hmm.
True FACE Act violations, 78 of them have been perpetrated against pro-life people. Bona fide FACE Act violations, Freedom of Access to Clinic and Church Entrance Act, but they're not. There's no manhunt, and they're not actually indicting anybody for that. And it's because they've made a decision. The FBI is a militant organization, and they have leaders, and their leaders have to make a determination about how they're going to allocate their resources, their investigative resources. And they've been told to slow walk this one. Let the clock run out on this one. Don't just turn the other way; it'll go away. Well, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interest right now in the House Judiciary Committee to investigate to investigate the FBI. I think all the investigative efforts need to be turned on the FBI, and starting with the 7th floor of the FBI all the way down to rank and file. There is corruption in the ranks, and it needs to be rooted out. And the FBI needs to, because it's undermining people's faith in the justice system, Jim. No matter where people stand on the abortion debate, it's undermining their faith in the justice system.
I understand that there was one Planned Parenthood that had some kind of vandalism take place, and they had no trouble finding the perpetrator in short order.
Exactly. That was in, I think that was in Kalamazoo, Michigan. On July 31st, there was somebody who tried to light a fire at Planned Parenthood. We don't know who it was. They found this guy. They amassed a joint federal law enforcement task force the same day, analyzed the video surveillance instantaneously, and did the forensic analysis on the log that was used to light the fire, and traced the forensic analysis back to this guy and had him arrested within 4 days.
Wow.
And now he's facing 20 years in prison, multiple fines. I mean, good for them, right? Good. But where's that same level of tenacity? Where's that same look? We're talking about one of the largest policing agencies on the globe with the best forensic technology known to man. It's naive to think that they don't know who's perpetrating these crimes if they're not perpetrating them themselves.
Well, as a result of this, Jim, you are now launching your own investigation. Tell us about it.
Yes, we've had to launch our own private investigation to identify the perpetrators, primarily because there's a criminal case that can be brought against the people for arson, but there's also a civil case, right? So the victims have to bring the civil case. We can't bring a civil case unless we have access to all of our evidence and the perpetrators. But because the law enforcement is intentionally not making arrests and or slow walking this, our window, we've got 1 year from the time of the attack to file a suit against the perpetrators. And that window, we're at 7 months right now. And it takes a while to build a case with our attorneys. So we've got to get we've got an investigative team, private investigative team that is looking into all the attacks on just pregnancy centers nationwide to find common themes and common threads to see if we can identify these perpetrators. And then, of course, take the reward that the FBI is offering to offset some of our costs. But we're finding some very interesting things that are very disconcerting. But what I mean by that is it looks like Jane's Revenge is indeed part of a more coordinated anarchist movement that is, in some ways, their leadership and their communication is mimicking Al Qaeda. So this is not a grassroots kind of effort. This is a movement that is largely, it seems to be driven by intelligentsia. There are, somewhat. It's likely, in academia somewhere that's driving some of the messaging and recruitment of these people, and it looks like there's a high degree of control over the activities of the perpetrators all across this country, and so we'll see. But it looks like we're getting some good results.
Friends, we're going to take a quick break here. Pastor Jim Harden is with us today, President and CEO of Compass Care Pregnancy Services in New York, who is standing for life in a pro-death culture. Friends, that's what's all around us, but what a shame that the top law enforcement of our land, part of the pro-death culture, slow-walking these issues. Folks, we'll be back in just 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist and creation researcher with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, when the Ice Age happened, was the Earth just covered in snow, like one big snowball?
Not at all, Chris. But there is a lot of evidence that the ice sheets, which started up in Canada, did come down into the U.S., but they didn't cover the entire globe at all. Actually, the Ice Age wasn't a time of bitter cold either. The summers were probably colder, such that the ice and snow which fell during the winter did not melt, but the winters were probably warmer on average than today. Today, if it gets really cold, it doesn't snow much because the cold air can't hold much moisture. The warmer the air, the more the moisture, the more the snow. And that's what's needed for an ice age. Just such a combination of factors would have happened right after the flood, essentially caused by the flood. By the way, that's the flood mentioned back in Genesis.
For more on the foundational principles set forth in Genesis, visit us on the web at www.icr.org.
Friends, this story is unbelievable, but sadly it's true. 8 months have passed, more than 8 months have passed since the first firebombing took place at Wisconsin Family Action, Madison, Wisconsin. Just a month after that, 30 days after that, Jim Harden's center, he's president and CEO of Compass Care Pregnancy Services in New York, was attacked. As he testified here earlier in the program, shared with us close to right around $500,000 in damage to the center. And the FBI took weeks before they even looked at the footage. And months, 5 months before they released the footage with a reward, they say, is it's just, kind speak, we want to do something here in order to make them look like we're doing something, giving it a reward, but nothing has come forth as of this moment that we are aware of. And to see the countless other centers, and right now the statute of limitations is on its way to be ended, coming up this July, months away, but it takes time to put a case together. And they are fighting even to get back their own video surveillance. Jim, this is your own private property.
This is our own private property, yes. And it's being withheld from us. What's happening here, Jim, is that pro-life people are being robbed of equal justice under the law. There's the third KKK Act of 1871, basically allows people to file suit against government bad actors and anybody else who participates and colludes together to deprive any citizen or any group of citizens of their rights, and specifically their equal protection under the law, the 14th Amendment. And that's exactly what's happening here all across this country and to us. The only reason that the FBI started communicating with us back in, I think it was September, was because we were, Senator Ted Cruz and 39 other legislators and congressmen, senators and congressmen, sent an open letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray, demanding to know why the FBI has abdicated their oath-bound duty to investigate violence against pro-life organizations and pregnancy centers, and why, in fact, in addition, they have actually turned on pro-life people and have begun attacking them. And then they called us 3 hours later after that letter came out and said, "We'd like to talk to you." I said, "Sure. What do you want to talk about?" They said, "We want to talk to you about your portrayal of the FBI in the media." I'm not kidding. And your lawsuit against the Amherst Police Department to retrieve your video surveillance. I said, "Okay."
Really?
Really? Yeah. And so now we have a lawsuit against the Amherst Police Department to get our video surveillance back. In fact, I just had our second hearing before the Supreme Court of New York in Erie County in Buffalo today. And the judge, essentially said, "Okay, I want to hear this again in a couple of weeks, but Amherst Police, you're basically, I mean, this is in so many words, but we need to know what it is in that video that you want to keep from Compass Care, so that that they need it so that they can prosecute a civil suit." And so this is we're a page has turned in American history. The battle for life didn't go away when Roe versus Wade was overturned. It heated up as you described, before our segment began, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, look, the FBI now has reward money, but I think that they're just feigning interest. They just that the heat's on right now. Everybody's looking at the FBI. Christopher Wray's in trouble. Merrick Garland's in trouble, and there's a statutory constitutional requirement that the FBI be held accountable by the House Judiciary Committee. They have every right to hold them accountable. And now that they are, the FBI wants to look like they're interested. So they post this reward only after they get this open letter from Ted Cruz and others. And so, okay, big deal. You get a reward after. What would be better is if they posted a reward for, Wisconsin Family Action and for all the other pregnancy centers and organizations out there that have been attacked. $25,000. That would be close to $4 million. That says, okay, we're in earnest. Also, it would be nice to see a manhunt going on, an international manhunt, because I think that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about an anarchist movement that is specifically targeting Christian pro-life people. And why? It's not because they like abortion. It's because they like what abortion gives them. Abortion gives them absolute power. And absolute power is the ability to decide who lives and who dies. It's not the government's job to decide who qualifies as a person protected under the law and who does not. It's the government's job to protect all people equally, and that's the point. They're not protecting preborn boys and girls equally, and they're refusing to protect pro-life people who want to protect those preborn boys and girls. They're treating us like second-class citizens because of what we believe, specifically that all people are made in God's image and deserving of blessing and protection.
Jim, how can our listeners advocate on your behalf? I mean, would it be beneficial for them to reach out to, like, the House Judiciary Committee? Is it helpful for them to reach out to others? How can listeners of Crosstalk advocate on behalf of Compass Care Pregnancy Services?
Yeah, definitely call your congressman and call your senator and demand that equal justice is provided under the law for pro-life people. Make sure that they know that you're aware and that you're watching how the government is upholding their oath to uphold the Constitution, to provide equal protection under the law, the 14th Amendment, to provide to make sure that our First Amendment rights of freedom of religion and freedom of speech are protected. Look, they're in the process. The pro-abortion politicians in charge of the Democratic Party are in the process of not just deregulating abortion, because it's happening right now. They're in the process of attempting to find a way to criminalize public pro-life activity. And that includes eliminating rights of conscience for physicians who refuse to refer or provide for abortions. That includes eliminating the rights of pregnancy centers, the free speech rights of pregnancy centers to talk about the risks and side effects of abortion to women. They're saying that we're misleading women, that we're giving them falsehoods or untruths. But that's not the case. The case is abortion is a fraud that's being perpetrated all across this country on women who are in crisis. It's not about medical care. It's not about women's access to medical care. It's not about any of that. It's all about a political agenda to undermine the current, quite frankly, the current governmental structure in America. And America is the last bastion of freedom. And if America falls, and America, the nation-state system in the world will fall. It's just that important. It just so happens that the flashpoint is abortion right now.
Friends, let me give you a couple phone numbers. I'll give you a number for the House switchboard as well as the Senate switchboard to advocate on behalf of Compass Care and the many, many other pregnancy care facilities and pro-life agencies that have been attacked. They're just seeking equal justice under the law. I mean, when it takes 4 days to find somebody who is starting a fire on top of a roof of Planned Parenthood and very diligently tracking down that forensic evidence, and now going 8 months since the very first attack, 7 months since the Compass Care attacks, and still nothing, no leads, no nothing, and working to keep surveillance, the video surveillance even from them. Folks, it's outrageous what's going on here. You can reach your U.S. House member at 202-225-3121. That's the House switchboard, 202-225-3121. Your Senate members, you have two of them, 202-224-3121. That takes you to the Senate switchboard, 202-224-3121. 3121. If you want their specific direct dial numbers, go to house.gov, senate.gov. You'll find them there. I am sure you're taking great comfort knowing that Congressman Jim Jordan now is the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, and he is one that doesn't leave any stone unturned. But let me also mention this, because last week, this matter came up before the House of Representatives in House Concurrent Resolution number 3. I've got a copy of that in my hands right now, and when you go through this, you're going to see center after center. Whereas on, about the Dobbs decision being leaked, and whereas on May 8th this happened, and mentions the center in Madison, Wisconsin. It goes through and mentions center after center after center, of which, here it is. Whereas then on June 7th, reports indicate that an abortion terrorist group, Jane's Revenge, firebombed the Compass Care Pro-Life Pregnancy Center in Amherst, New York. Whereas, and it goes on to Philadelphia and to Redford Township and Jackson, Michigan, Lynchburg, Virginia, on and on, Cortez, Colorado, page after page after page of whereases all these centers are attacked. And then it says, resolved by the House of Representatives that Congress condemns recent attacks of vandalism, violence, and destruction against pro-life facilities, groups, and churches, recognizes the sanctity of life and the important role pro-life facilities, groups, and churches play in supporting pregnant women, infants, and families, and calls upon the Biden administration to use all appropriate law enforcement authorities to uphold public safety and protect the rights of pro-life facilities, groups, and churches, passed the House of Representatives January 11th, 2023. I'm going to have you comment on this, but to me, again, the outrage in all of this is that the vote on this matter was 222 to 209, with the Republicans were joined, all the Republicans voted for this, and joined by 3 Democrats, only 3 Democrats. 209 no votes came from the Democratic Party. It's outrageous.
It is outrageous. And that, there's 2 things that could have happened here. The fact that pro-abortion Democrats voted in block, like lockstep, means that either they didn't read the bill or the concurrent resolution, or they don't want pro-life people protected, because this bill wasn't about abortion. Make no mistake. You just, read the bill. It was not about abortion. It was about protecting citizens that have already been born, that happen to have a particular belief, who are being attacked for that belief. And 48% of United States representatives refused to vote in favor of the protection of pro-life citizens currently under attack and threat. I mean, that is reprehensible to the extent that it seems to me, that would disqualify them. Actually representing.
Here's a statement that was made. I'm reading right from the Congressional Record from last week, Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. Honorable Betty McCollum of Minnesota. HCon Res 3 is nothing but a political move by the extreme Republican House majority that's both disingenuous and puts actual healthcare clinics at risk. Let me be clear. I condemn violence in all its forms. However, this resolution only focuses on protecting pro-life pregnancy centers and faith-based women's health clinics, not medical facilities. Here's a fact. Attacks on abortion providers and clinics are on the rise, increasing 128% in just 1 year. The resolution before us falls short of fully condemning political violence, and I encourage my colleagues to stand together and condemn all violence so that everyone can have the freedom to access reproductive health care without fear. Your comment to her.
I would say, where did you get your numbers? Violence to abortion clinics is up 128%. Was that what she said? I mean,
yep.
That's a false number. The reality is that those numbers have been padded, as I said in an earlier segment, with the FBI's and the DOJ's, making false arrests on FACE Act violations of peaceful pro-life people. 28 false arrests on peaceful pro-life people all across this country, and they're using that as and characterizing it as violence. Well, look, the violence that's being perpetrated here is from the Justice Department against peaceful pro-life people, and now the injustice continues with this false kind of mischaracterization of pro-life people. Again, the violence is coming from the left, and these pro-abortion politicians that are making these claims that it's coming that pro-life people are violent are part of the problem. And there should be no reason why they didn't vote for this bill, and they mischaracterized it again as a pro-life kind of anti-abortion bill, but it wasn't.
Standing for life in a pro-death culture, we have with us Pastor Jim Harden, President and CEO of Compass Care Pregnancy Services in New York. We'll be right back.
The rise of fentanyl overdose deaths is skyrocketing and has been the leading cause of death in adults ages 18 to 45. Street drugs have been laced with it, creating new lines of counterfeit pills. Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. Sadly, many looking for their next high are experimenting with fentanyl and losing their life as a result. Addressing the issue from a biblical perspective is Mark Shaw, founder of the Addiction Connection. In his 33-page booklet, Fentanyl, Mark examines many topics including pain management, what God says about drugs, why people are overdosing, and hope and answers from God's perspective. He addresses issues of the heart which lead many to addiction. The booklet, Fentanyl, is available for a donation of $6 or 3 copies for $15. Call VCY at 1-800-729-9829.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America. Pastor Jim Harden with us, the President, CEO of Compass Care Pregnancy Services, now having to launch their own investigation. The FBI, no, just can't find anything here. Amherst Police, no, we can't find anything, but we're even going to keep your video surveillance so that you don't have access to it. Friends, it's outrageous what is going on here, and they are seeking to get to the bottom of it, not only on their behalf, but for pro-life centers all across this nation, really fighting for life here in this very pro-death culture, and we're seeing that outlined right before us here. I understand there's a contact website, Jim, where our listeners can go to and get more information on your centers and what's at stake here?
Yes, if people would like to learn more, they can go to compasscarecommunity.com. That's compasscarecommunity.com.
Folks, it's amazing what's going on. And then when the House of Representatives had the opportunity to vote last week to condemn this violence, to think that the vote was 222 yes to condemn the violence, 209 no. It's just amazing. There was another vote that happened last week on legislation. It was H.R. 26, the Born Alive Abortions Survivors Protection Act. I'm going to have you tell us about this, but here again, the vote was 220 in favor, 210 against this. Tell us, what can you tell us about this legislation?
Yeah, again, this particular piece of legislation was not about abortion. I know it's Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Okay, so what that means is, in a botched abortion, when a baby is born in a late-term abortion and born alive, that the doctor is now compelled to take care of that child to protect the life of the child. So when a child is born, constitutionally, that child has immediate protections under the law. And all this bill is saying is that, oh, look, we just want to recognize that everybody, should know, including the physicians, these doctors, these abortionists who are doing these late-term abortions, that they need to protect these babies once, if in fact they are born alive. And again, these pro-abortion politicians voted in lockstep, didn't read the bill, and are not actually representing the people. Certainly not representing the youngest, most vulnerable people in America, the infants. This is slippery slope. So the bill is actually redundant. A physician has a duty to care. They take an oath to care to provide their medical expertise to whoever's at the need, right? Whoever they come across, and this is a common sense measure. And for some reason, somehow, these pro-abortion politicians don't think that babies already born should be protected. They think they should die of exposure. It's 48% of our representatives in America. That's the kind of representatives America has right now. They don't want to. It's not about abortion anymore. It's about expanding the power of the government to decide who lives and who dies.
Folks, again, a botched abortion is when they intentionally try to kill the baby and the baby survives that killing. And so this is saying that baby's got to be cared for. You got to care for this baby. Not like Governor Northam, the former governor of Virginia, who said, well, we leave that up to the doctor and the mother. You lay the baby down, they'll have a discussion, then they'll make a decision. Folks, this is a human life. It's human life even before this point, a human life from the moment of conception. But I'd like you to hear, folks, this is testimony that came from Jerry Nadler in the U.S. Congress last week as to why he was in opposition to caring for these babies who were survived attempted murder. Here's what he had to say.
The problem with this bill is not that it makes anything, that it provides any new protections for infants. The problem with this bill is that it endangers some infants by stating that infant must immediately be brought to the hospital, where, depending on the circumstances, that may be the right thing to do for the health and survival of that infant, or it may not. That is the problem with this bill. It directs and mandates a certain medical care which may not be appropriate, which may be endanger the life of an infant in certain circumstances. That's why we oppose this bill.
It's amazing, Jim. He's saying, you may put the baby's life at harm by taking it to the hospital. They just tried to kill this baby. They just tried to murder this baby.
Well, if it wasn't so ridiculous, I mean, these people are outside their mind. They're claiming that giving medical care to a baby born alive would endanger the health of the baby. How does that even make sense? Right? Here's a baby that was intentionally attempted to be killed, right? I mean, that's the point. That's why the baby is in the position it's in right now. So somebody tried to kill the baby and was unsuccessful. And so now this guy's coming along saying, no, it's bad for the baby's health if you try to take care of the baby's health. What kind of doublespeak is this? It's like straight out of 1984.
He is the ranking member on the House Judiciary Committee. He was the chair prior to the House turning over. He was the leader.
This guy needs to be laughed out of office. This guy needs to be sanctioned. He needs to retire. And if he doesn't need to be, I mean, look, his statements, if he actually represents the people, what does that mean for the other people he represents? If he's willing to throw a baby under the bus, what's he going to do to you when it's convenient? Because that's the slippery slope we're on right now.
You know, for sake of time, I'd like to dwell here further, but there's another issue we got to bring to the forefront of everybody as well, and that is what's going on with these chemical abortions. We've got different aspects with pharmacies across the nation that are picking up on these, as well as the U.S. Postal Service being ordered by President Biden to deliver, chemical abortions to take place, the chemical pill to take innocent baby's life. Tell us what's going on with this whole matter of chemical abortions and really pharmacies across this nation. I understand even CVS and Walgreens are jumping on board to make these available.
They are, yes. It's important to note that pharmacies, just like any medical provider, are licensed by the state in which they practice. And so that means they have to abide by the restrictions in their state. If abortion is restricted, then they have to abide by those abortion restrictions. That said, on Tuesday, January 3rd, the Biden administration's FDA was trying to get as much as they could possibly get done in terms of deregulating chemical abortion before the 118th Congress went in session. And so what they did was they made new rules permitting certified pharmacies to fill the chemical abortion drug prescriptions, and they're turning all the corner drugstores basically into abortionists. Chemical abortion represents 54% of all abortions right now, and that was before all of the pharmacies could dispense it. Now all of them can dispense it. But chemical abortion represents serial malpractice. So we're going to see these dangerous chemical abortion drugs ramping up. We're going to see abortion numbers continue to go up in America because of this Biden administration's move. And I say chemical abortion represents serial malpractice. I really mean that. Chemical abortion is 500% more dangerous than surgical. A woman is 5 times more likely to end up in the emergency room with sepsis, hemorrhaging, ruptured fallopian tube, or worse, than she is with a surgical abortion. Now, I'm not saying surgical abortion is good by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact of the matter is the research wasn't done on safety and efficacy for the abortion pill. It violates the Nuremberg Code. Think about that. The third provision of the Nuremberg Code has been violated by this chemical abortion drug. It's still listed, though, on the FDA's REMS list, Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategy list. Only 70 drugs were dangerous enough to make it on that list, and Mifeprex, the abortion pill, made it on that list. It's that dangerous. And yet abortionists are given a pass to promote it as safer than Tylenol. Look, these women are not being diagnosed for pregnancy before they get these dangerous drugs mailed to them. They're not. It's not being confirmed that there's no ectopic pregnancy. There's no consideration for any other contraindications, like, for example, anemia. If a woman has a health history of anemia, none of these things are being. This is a fraud. This is reducing women's health care. This is, sacrificing the health or reproductive health of a woman on the altar of abortion and governmental political agenda. It is a shame and a sham, and it needs to be called out and reversed. This decision needs to be reversed.
So we do have these major pharmacy chains that are jumping on board?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Wegmans, Walgreens, CVS. They're all jumping on board, saying that they're already going through the process of certifying their pharmacists to dispense these drugs. There's some serious concern because, of course, all drugs have interaction issues with other drugs, and all these things are not being considered. This is a very dangerous to women. I think you're going to see a massive spike in emergency room visits, and specifically what I call miscarriage inflation. Miscarriage inflation. What I mean by that is women are being told to go to the emergency room if they have complications with the chemical abortion drug, and tell the doctor when you get to the emergency room that you're having a miscarriage. And so what we're going to see is just miscarriage inflation going through the roof with these emergency room visits.
Friends, if you would like to reach out, Family Research Council has published the phone numbers to reach out to CVS Pharmacy, which is 1-800-SHOP-CVS. That's 800-746-7287. And Walgreens, 1-800-WALGREENS, which is 1-800-925-4733. Major chains that are they're suggesting people call to tell them to stay out of the abortion business. There is just one other aspect here, and we'll be opening phone lines here soon. Friends, if you'd like to get online here with your comments today, brief comments or questions, 800-733-9829 is our number, 800-733-9829. The media is just cannot stomach the term pro-life. And I've got a story here, just a case in point, as what came out here as well, as on MSNBC here just last week, as they're covering the story. This is, I believe, Andrea Mitchell that is talking on here, and just could not stomach the fact that a reporter on scene used the term pro-life. Garrett was giving the report. Here's what happened on air.
The fact that at the end of the day she was...
Let me restart that.
Well, she told reporters after the fact that at the end of the day she was, as she described herself, pro-life, and that she felt that it was important to vote for these measures despite their potentially politically damaging or politically unappealing appearance, if you will, for
Garrett,
future voters.
Let me just interrupt and say that pro-life is a term that that an entire group wants to use, but that is not an accurate description.
I'm using it because that's the term she used to describe herself, Andrea.
I understand.
Jim, she's saying pro-life is not an accurate description? I mean, what is? They're trying to preserve life.
Exactly. Here's a perfect example of an abortion activist masquerading as a journalist. That is part of the problem that we're facing right now, is because there's this propaganda campaign, it's active propaganda campaign, to mischaracterize pro-life people in their own terms. They want to vilify us, demonize us, and marginalize us to the point where public pro-life activity is made illegal. That's the direction that we're heading. That's what all this has been about for the last 7 or 8 months.
Jim Harden is our guest here today on Crosstalk, and our number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. That's 800-733-9829. The website for our guest, compasscarecommunity.com. Compasscarecommunity.com. CompasCareCommunity.com. We are right up against the break. When we come back from the 60-second break, we're going to go right to the phone lines and take your questions, your brief comments here today. Friends, it's unbelievable that it's been more than 8 months since the first attacks upon pro-life centers across this land, and still not one has been brought to justice. And even a cover-up, well, let me say a slow-walking, that is, of video footage. No, we're not going to release it back to you. You just might find out who it is, and we don't want that to happen. That's my editorial review. Back in a minute here on Crosstalk.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website is worldviewreport.com. On January 10th, 2023, the White House website and the website of the Canadian government and Justin Trudeau announced that indeed the three leaders from Canada, America, and Mexico met. And what are they discussing? Well, according to their own January 10th, 2023 press release, they're merging America, Mexico, and Canada, the North American Union. In fact, it was called a North American Declaration. I was interviewing Phyllis Schlafly about this 20-plus years ago. Many of us were talking about it. We were called, well, conspiracy theorists. Well, here it is. And the Republicans under George W. Bush were working on this, and now so is the Biden administration. Will this fit with Bible prophecy, the world divided into 10 regions with 10 kings who give their power to the beast? Stay tuned.
The program is called Crosstalk. Our guest today, Jim Harden, who is President, CEO of Compass Care Pregnancy Services in New York, CompassCareCommunity.com. The website. Let's go right to the phone lines. Monroe, Wisconsin, we have, Mark. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, in my opinion, Jerry Nadler is nothing more than a diabolical, deranged individual. He has a long history of taking that approach in just about everything, including the Kavanaugh hearing and so on and so forth. My point is we the people need to take a stand, come up to the plate and resist the evil that these people present and take our country back so that ultimately, we have some sort of nation left after all is said and done.
Yeah. Thank you for the comment here. And when we think of Jerry Nadler, I mean, it's just outrageous to think here we are attempting to kill this baby. The child survives the murder attempt, and he's concerned that we have to take that child to the hospital because it may not be in the best, that it may cause the child to die or something may happen to the child. It's not good. It may not be good medically for that child. Charlie in Lodi, Wisconsin, you're on the air.
Yes, quickly, I think the Democrats seem to be more socialist, communist, Antifa, and Black Lives Matter. I think the last Democrat was probably Kennedy. Working for the government myself for 32 years, I understand that they have rules that sound really nice, but rules are made to control people. For instance, they will lay them down for people that they like, they get a pass, and if they don't like you, then the rules apply.
Yeah, thank you for that, Charlie. And I guess what you're seeing is two different set of rules, Jim, as it relates to even investigating the extremism that's taken place.
Yes, and I think about anarchy. They used to call communism anarchy, but what it is it's a rejection of the current law or legal system, the current governmental system, so that the people that are promoting the anarchist revolution can ultimately have control. It's rule of man, not rule of law. See, we they want us to bow to them, to a set of men, instead of to an idea or to a concept or to the fact that we're made in God's image and deserving of blessing and protection. That should be the foundation. That's the only foundation for blind justice, actually, is human dignity.
We've got Leroy calling from Atlanta, Georgia. Leroy, you're on the air.
Hey, Jim. Yeah, you stole some of my thunder. But, when it comes to Jerry Nadler, that may or may not be in the best interest of the child statement. where did he find this objectivity? Look, I don't have the proof in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he was ready to enforce medical mandates. But now all of a sudden he can find it within himself to be objective when it comes to saving the life of the child, whether it happens at the abortion clinic and they get the proper care or the hospital. He doesn't care that the child gets care.
Yeah. He's been an advocate for the taking of innocent human life. Thank you, Leroy, for the comments. And it really is a double standard here, Jim, that he's perpetrating, and it should be frightening. I mean, he has served in Congress a number of years, and with the he's New York 10th congressional district there.
Yeah, and the abortion industry does one thing: they end the life of children. That's that they do, and so they to expect that they can all of a sudden start saving children's lives. Maybe they don't know how. Maybe they can't. Look, the Hippocratic Oath, the oath that doctors would take before they actually started practicing medicine independently, even up till 1973, before Roe versus Wade, they would use this statement in this Hippocratic Oath, and it goes like this: "I will not give a woman an abortive remedy," which is an old way of saying, abortion is not medical care. Mm-hmm. Abortion has never been considered medical care. Abortion is the original quackery. Why? Because it violates the purpose of medicine. The purpose of medicine is to heal and to maintain the health of the patient, to give a patient his or her life back, not to use the technology of medicine to kill human beings. Human beings ought to be protected and blessed in all stages and phases. And a child in the womb is fully and completely human, made in God's image.
Amen. Let's go to Al in West Virginia. Al, you're on the air.
Yes, I'd like to remind you that you have the right to pull together your own grand jury to charge and so forth, and that timeline, which is what you might want to do. And if you don't want to do that, as long as you put charges against whoever it is you want to put charges against, which would be the police department, the FBI, whatever, as long as you keep that up to date, that time limit does not run out, as long as you keep reviving it all the time. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
but
that's great.
Okay, and right now, I mean, you don't know who to bring action against. You don't know who that's why you're launching your investigation. Who did this to the center? Though you do have a lawsuit going against the Amherst Police Department as we speak.
Yes, we have a lawsuit against the Amherst Police Department. We are looking into lawsuits against other government bad actors, including members of the FBI, as well as members of Congress and the Senate.
We're going to get one last call in. This is Greg from West Union, Ohio. Greg, you're on the air.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. Our nation right now is being run by all reprobates, or at least most of them are reprobates who have no conscience, no remorse for anything they do. And I believe the Democrats' plan is for Joe to resign and Kamala Harris to be president for the next 10 years. I hope that's not working out for them, but I think that's what they have planned.
Okay, and we're going to stay back here on the main topic here for today. Thank you. Jim, we've got about 30 seconds left. What would you like to leave with the listeners today?
I would basically like to say, keep talking about why it's important to protect all life equally. Keep talking. The more we talk about the equal value of all human life because we're made in the image of God, the more pro-life the nation gets. And these representatives and these medical providers, these abortionists, they lag behind culture. They don't lead. So we need to lead. We need to stand up and continue to educate our friends, our family, our coworkers, demand from our representatives that they protect all life equally because we're made in God's image. And we'll start to see some changes.
Pastor Jim Harden, President, CEO of Compass Care Pregnancy Services, or website compasscarecommunity.com. Pastor Jim, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And friends, again, we encourage you to stay strong, take a stand for life, yes, even in this pro-death culture. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Crosstalk. May the Lord richly bless you.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.